Well, it's a drain on resources, right? Because you got to feed them. It costs money. Same thing with refugees, right? The refugees come over, you got to put them in, you got to create a makeshift camp, right? You got to make sure they have food, you got to make sure they have a tent over their head, okay, a cot to sleep on, okay? You got to make sure that the camp is properly sanitized, because you don't want any kind of diseases emerging, right? Okay?
Can a country stop them from coming in?
What's that?
Can a country stop them?
Yeah, I guess, but now we're running into human rights issues. Okay, I guess I was being frivolously serious when I talked about those those police officers that were stopping the folks from New Orleans from coming over this bridge. But I was being frivolously serious. In other words, that was a kind of an absurd example, but the driving point that yeah, you could if you wanted to. Okay, but I think in that case now you're running into some serious human rights issues, particularly if you're from the country shooting people fleeing versus coming in and shooting people. These are innocent individuals.
No, not shooting, just not allowing them to come in.
Well, I mean, how would you stop 4,000 people from coming over?
Their country is not like safe, so that's why they want.
Yeah, but how would you stop them? It would be very difficult, wouldn't it? You'd actually put the soldiers in danger who would stop them, right? Because, you know, they would have to resort to what? They'd have to resort to shooting because the mob would just kind of overwhelm them, okay? But the point is that creates a drain. It creates a drain on resources. Now, Tunisia, okay, has its own calculus of decision-making that it has to be concerned about, right? Has to not just take care of its citizens, but it also has to do what? Take care of these refugees, and that creates tension. And then it drives a rift within society. You have those that are citizens of Tunisia versus those that are, let's say, the refugees, right? So again, you have this issue where you have these kind of displaced individuals that have left a country not because they wanted to, but they left the country because they had to. And the question is, and what happens if they don't go back? What happens to them? It's a big deal, isn't it? They have to somehow be assimilated into society, or they have to assimilate somewhere else, right? Okay? Which means, let's say you are citizens of a particular country, okay, you have all this wonderful access to health care, to education, and so forth, but you're one of these people that's in one of these camps. What's your state going to be? What's your situation going to be like? Well, you're not a citizen. The place that you came from, no longer, you can't go back. You're in limbo because you're in a camp, and you have no opportunities. No opportunities for what? Your education opportunities are limited, right? Your health care is limited because you only get what Doctors Without Borders or what other non-governmental organizations may be providing you. Okay, it's a serious situation. Okay, and that can create conflict, because if you start having more and more people that are refugees in camps and they exceed the number of people living, the citizens of the country, now you have a serious problem. And then you can have instability within a particular country where the refugees maybe want to take over the country. Like in Jordan, right? Okay, yeah.
It's like a country within a country, right?
Well, you know, these camps, I mean, there are in Lebanon, for example, the Palestinian refugees, that place is basically off, no one from the Lebanese government goes there. They have their own rule of law. But those are extreme cases. That's a unique case only because of the tragedy of this region. But getting back to the issue of refugees, the fact that you have a refugee crisis, it needs to be resolved. That costs money. And where's that money going to come from? Okay? So, and do those refugees have rights? I mean, those are questions you have to ask yourself. Another thing in terms of global refugee crisis is this issue of a brain drain. If there's no opportunities for you in this country, what are you likely going to do? Well, at least one of the brothers has to do what? Has to move to another country. Okay, and then he can send money back. That's what the expats do from all these different, like the Philippines, for example. They come here, they work, they send their money back once a month, once they get paid, right? So what happens is that they essentially go and and send money back. But over time, what may happen? They may get assimilated, right? They may meet someone and wind up living in Canada, living in the United States. Okay? But from a human capital or from an intellectual capital point of view, if you're a highly skilled labor, I mean, one of the things that I like to emphasize, particularly with respect to the United States, is the United States benefited dramatically from World War II. Because many of the people who fled Europe and moved to the United States maybe left all the material possessions behind, but they came with what? Whatever they had up here. And then have been able to contribute because they had able to assimilate in American society. Okay? So whenever you have conflict, the first people that are going to go are the people that are able to go. And that probably would be the most educated people within a particular country. Okay? And they'll move because opportunities present themselves in other countries, and it deprives that society of an individual who can contribute to the prosperity of the nation state. Another thing about refugee crisis is the issue of failed states. Failed states are very dangerous in the sense, first of all, do you know what a failed state is?
Yeah, but a state that doesn't have a very strong government.
Cannot get, yeah, very, very good. It's a state, nation state that doesn't have a functioning government. So if you're a failed state, what that means, you can't solve the problem that your society faces. Okay? Meaning you can't solve the refugee problem, or you can't solve, let's say, you can't drive out that camp of terrorists that are conducting their training on your territory because you don't have the military or the ability or the strength to push them out. Okay? So that's the global refugee crisis. The fourth world. We talked about the fourth world earlier on in the course in the semester. You guys remember when we talked about the fourth world? Okay? And that what were some examples of the fourth world that we talked about earlier on?
Fourth world, the country, ethnic groups.
Nations without states, right?
Yeah.
Remember what was one of the questions on your exam? Nation state, right?
Yeah, like.
What a nation state is?
Yes.
Okay? And then the fourth world are basically nations without states. Okay? Kurds would be an example. Blacks the example. Right? So you have, those are issues that come into consideration. In other words, you have individuals who have lesser rights, okay, than others. And actually those who are even seeking more rights, or if not autonomy, clearly independence from the nation state that they're basically governed by. Okay? Other issues in terms of human rights, ethnic cleansing. Okay? And that's also discussed in the book. You had the Kurds and Saddam Hussein, Rwanda. Who saw the movie Hotel Rwanda? Did you see the movie, Charles? You didn't see. You gotta see it. Gotta see it. Did you see what the guys watch the movie? You'll be disturbed for a little bit. I was really disturbed for about 2 days after the movie because it really affected me. But you had the whole issue of Tutsis and Hutus, and really the only difference was one supported the Belgians and the other didn't. But they were basically the same. It was payback time, I guess, somewhat. Turkey and the Turks and the Armenians. That's still alive today. I mean, it's illegal, I think, in Turkey to acknowledge that the Armenian genocide ever occurred. Okay, and you can actually go to jail when you acknowledge it. Okay. Who saw the movie Ararat? Guys, you guys don't see good enough. Ararat. Put it down. Put it down. Ararat. It's a famous mountain in Armenia. Everybody, got to see the movie. You guys have to see these movies. You got to open up and see how things are. We're at Ararat. It's a classic movie. It's all about the Armenian. It's the story that takes place in modern times, and the shackles of this whole Armenian Ararat. Ararat. A-R-A-R-A-T. I don't know, maybe there's 2 R's in one of them. But it's a movie you have to see. It's about the Armenian genocide. okay? Nazi Germany and Jews and gypsies, right? I believe over 50 million people were exterminated during World War II, okay? A lot of them were not just Jews, but also gypsies. And actually, gypsies is a term that is I guess it's not politically correct anymore. They're called, Romanos?
They're called Roma in Europe, but most Americans don't know Roma.
Oh.
People still call them gypsies in the United States.
Yeah, I know, but I got attacked one time at a dinner party. They're using the
Here in
gypsies.
Kuwait?
No, in Lebanon.
Oh, okay.
I told the person to get a life and calm down, but
Well, the word gypsy actually comes from Egypt. You know?
yeah. But then, so you have, people were, so that this would be during World War II. You have United States and Native Americans, right? So I mean, it seems like every country's got some blood in its hands when you think about it. I should say not every, a lot of countries. Did you find it?
Yeah, I did.
All right, Ararat. Okay, definitely. So Ararat, Hotel Rwanda, and Ararat. I recommend those two movies you ladies see. Okay? So again, so when we talk about ethnic cleansing, it is illegal. There was the guy who just got convicted, right, in the last week or so, in The Hague, right, by the Human Rights Court for violating. What's his name?
Charles Taylor?
Taylor, yeah, he just got convicted. Ladies, you have to pay attention to this kind of stuff. You can't just sit and not, this is an important thing. These are important events that you should not ignore, okay? All right, so ethnic cleansing. So the whole idea of ethnic cleansing is something that, the world tries to prevent. You had the issue of the Serbs and the Croatians, right? Right, so you had that whole tragedy where people in Eastern Europe were attacking or wanting to kill the Muslims, right? You guys remember that? Serbia, Croatia, you guys remember that? No? Folks, you guys are scaring me, I have to tell you. If you don't know anything about this, you need to. I'm going to have to start giving you some more information because you need to know these kind of things. I mean, why do you think history repeats itself? Why do you think history repeats itself? Because what happens? People forget. People don't know anything about history. And that's why history is something you have to pay attention to. So it doesn't